So we're recording live now. It's August 20th, 2024. We're here just about to dive into some amazing regenerative practices and insights from Davison, who runs two projects, one called Elite Home Performance and the other one called Avalon Acres, based in Austin. Elite Home Performance is helping people minimize and educate them on how to minimize their own energy in their homes. And Avalon Acres is a regenerative living center in a land project, right, in Austin. Do you want to tell me a little bit about both?
Sure. So, Elite Home Performance is a company devoted to optimizing people's energy consumption, minimizing it, and producing energy from renewables if the conversation reaches that point. I've been in the solar industry for 6 years and have noticed a severe lack of attention to building performance itself, energy efficiency, how systems are designed, how homes are designed, architecture. There's a whole universe of a conversation prior to energy production, like solar or wind, that should be addressed. So, like, I think the number is 60% of the United States energy consumption is consumed by buildings. So there's very very stark inefficient conversation to address there. And Avalon Acres is something that I've been dreaming since I was a kid. I grew up with divorced parents and was very confused as a kid in a lot of ways. Politically, I was pulled in two different directions and pulled in a lot of different directions and couldn't really make sense of it. So ever since I was a kid, just noticed a lot of the inconsistencies in our society and problems from agricultural standpoint to an energy standpoint to a political standpoint to all the different standpoints that we could address. And it's been my life's work and my attempt to kind of solve problems. So Avalon is the design behind it is to kill, for lack of a better phrase, kill like 8 birds in one stone, in a sense. So we do that through regenerative design. I mean, that's kind of a buzzword, regenerative, nowadays, but we mean that in the most like realistic sense possible. So if any of our, I guess, listeners have heard of the Earthship concept, my business partner Bob Brunson, he actually worked with Mike Reynolds on the first Earthship in Crockett, Texas. So he built that with Mike Reynolds, and Bob's got about half of one done on the land now. So we're currently finishing that, and we have a yurt, we have a teepee, we have a couple cabins, and we've got a workshop, and it's all powered by solar generators and batteries. And so that conversation around people's basic needs, I think we've given away our power in certain ways to the powers that be, the corporate interests that make a lot of money off of our giving away that power. But the intention behind Avalon Acres is to educate people. It's called a regenerative living center, but the purpose is the sole purpose. The primary purpose is to educate, is to give people an experience of what it's like to live amongst a permaculture food forest, to have renewable energy, to have their power stored in batteries, to have an experience of owning their life from food, water, power, etc. So that's the kind of elevator pitch, I guess.
And so Avalon Acres is on how many acres in Austin? It's outside of Austin, right?
Yeah, it's in Bastrop. Well, it's outside of Bastrop. So Bastrop's probably 45 minutes from Austin. It's like a hugely growing market, and we're in Page, so we're about 15 minutes outside of there.
Is that east of Bastrop or?
Yes.
Cool.
That Page. Yeah.
So you're about an hour from downtown Austin.
About an hour.
Yeah. And then how many acres are you on?
28. So
28.
yeah, we've got um, for the bigger development, because of course I spend my weekends building. So we're on, as I said, we just finished a deck, and we're gonna build a further deck to connect the teepee and the yurt, and kind of have a really nice setup there. But the bigger vision is to have like 80 acres next door to us. I mean, we'll have an event center and a dojo and an amphitheater and a koi fish pond, and there's like a million things to augment the experience for guests. The cash flows, of course, are coming from real estate, short-term rentals. So that's the financial piece is really just short-term rentals um, in cabins and yurts and all the fun structures, and then we'll have 5 to 7 earth ships on the 80 acres next door to give people a trial of what it's like to live in something like an earth ship. So I don't know if everyone's heard of an earth ship. I can talk about that too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the documentary is great, the Michael Reynolds documentary. It's really cool how they, like, went through the system, had to, like, go to, court to fight them, be like, "We can build whatever we want on our land." What's great about being outside of Bastrop is that you actually don't have any, like in Texas, it's so much easier than California and other states to build because you don't have the same restrictions on land, you can build what you want. So it's a really good platform and playground to, like, dream up, like, the most inspiring regenerative living center possible. Um, I recently just visited the prototype of the geodesic dome, the geoship dome home that I'm working with, and it's so inspiring. It, like, completely, I feel like it shifted my mindset just being in the dome. Actually,
Mm,
it gave me a whole new perspective. Like, domes are great, but I've never been in one that's like enclosed with the material, like the actual bioceramics, and even the prototype is so inspiring. Even though it's small, it could be a studio, but the bioceramics can actually, they can go up to 3,000 feet with the dome. So it would be cool to have geoships on there too. Um,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, part of it is just giving people like access to different types of structures that they may not have seen before or experienced before. Because if you look at Utopia, it's in the Hill Country, west of Austin. I mean, they're renting out yurts for just obscene amounts of money. People are into the yurts right now, and
yeah,
that's cool. But we'll have all of the above. So we want to have the domes and pretty much all the alternative structures, and obviously some of the more mainstream like cabins, and just to give people that variety.
yeah. It's nice to have that option, and also it does. If someone wanted to buy in and have a home, it also reduces the cost of living. So it's great
Mhm.
in that sense that you can have, like, all of the options available.
Totally.
Um, Yeah. I just wanted to point out something. There's this woman called Earth Hawk. She wrote the book The Fifth Sacred Thing, but
Mhm.
she actually at Envision Festival, she shifted the phrase "killing two birds with one stone" into "feeding two birds with one scone." So maybe we could feed eight
Mm,
birds with one scone.
exactly. That's a much better phrase. I'm glad I learned that. Eating eight
Yeah.
birds with 8 scones or 1 scone. Right.
Maybe once, because I think the value of coming together and, like, community marketing, co-marketing, sharing each other's projects is that we can do so much more when we come together. Like, even if you think of investing money together, like, it goes so much farther than, you know, than one person. The
Mhm.
resources are amplified. You can do so much more than just being by yourself. And I think that's also one of the problems that we're trying to solve is, like, this isolation and, like, this, okay, you need to own everything. You need to be in a box by yourself and you have to survive and go to work and make enough money to, like, feed your family by yourself, or just if you're by yourself, it's like, providing for yourself by yourself is not sustainable or regenerative at all. And then it keeps us
Mhm.
isolated away from each other, away from nature. And that's what makes us sick versus, like, we're
Mhm.
healed by being with each other, by sharing our magic, by sharing our wisdom, and by being in community and closer to nature, and by reconnecting with the soil, reconnecting with our food, our plants. So I think that, having these solutions are so important. So it's really inspiring to hear. that there are more things like this, like Avalon Acres, that are, coming to fruition, that are providing these spaces, because we need so much more space for communities to live in. People are going to wake up, and they're going to be like, wow, I don't want to live, in a box by myself anymore. Like, I want to be
Yeah,
surrounded by community, obviously having your own space, but like having, these beautiful spaces to co-create in and to learn and work in. So yeah.
yeah,
um I I love your passion around, shifting the solar industry. So maybe you want to, dive in and like share a little bit about what you've learned about being in the regular solar industry and like how you're doing it differently.
yeah. Oh, geez, there's just um, I in my time in solar, and there's so many amazing people and so many good people. I don't want to discount any of that. And there's going to be bad actors and bad apples in any industry, and I understand that. Um, but in my experience, the solar industry, the opportunity that it's presented has attracted, a higher percentage of scammers and bad actors that it started to create ripples and a reputation of the solar industry in general that I could no longer associate myself with in the same way. So in the traditional sense. And so there's several problems that I could kind of address, but I think the well, I'll talk about two of them. So the first one is just that, people ask like, is solar a scam? Well, does solar produce power from the sun? Yes. It depends on how much the cost of electricity is in your particular market, like where you live, and the cost that you're getting the solar at. The two drivers of price gouging in the solar industry are pretty much the sales reps that sell the product and the banks. So when you get a mortgage, for example, there are particular laws and regulations around what needs to be disclosed. Truth in lending is one of those things. In a solar contract, a lot of times, and I can't speak for every bank, but at least the primary ones, they don't. The truth in lending is incomplete. It doesn't really disclose certain what they call dealer fees. Um, and those can be 25, 30, 40% of a contract amount is just bank fees up front. Um, and that's not including salesperson's commission, which sometimes, again, it totally depends on the system size. It totally depends on the market, depends on the cost per kilowatt. There are things, but some sales reps like just brag about making 20 or 30 grand on a deal when they really just lowered the amount of panels the homeowner was getting, promised them extra power because the homeowner was uneducated, and like people, there's attorney generals getting involved in multiple different states. And the biggest installers going out of business. Titan Solar went out of business. Empire went out of business. A big, I could go on for a while, but it's a function of greed, and the greed function, the greed the intelligence of greed, or the energy of greed, is the primary kind of culprit for problems outside of the solar industry. So it's kind of like what I fixate on almost, and try to like eradicate from the equation, which is really difficult. Like, but I do see that as the problem, and I am doing my best to create things that um, can reconcile that. So, and then just the second quick piece to the solar industry to answer your question is, as I said before in the introduction, buildings are when new homes are built, there was no energy code. There's building codes, right, for resilience and safety and like how the structure is like literally built. But there was no actual building energy code up until like 2000. So basically, new homes weren't built with any sort of standard around energy efficiency or home performance, and a lot of homes are severely wasteful. And it's so much cheaper to reduce energy consumption than it is to produce energy. Like,
What do you mean then to produce energy?
So a lot of times when pretty much
Producing
anyone in the country,
from the solar, you mean?
exactly. So energy production from
Produce.
solar
It's
or
easier
wind
to
or any.
produce the system itself of like the actual home, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So the home is, you can think of it as like kind of analogy of like the human body. Like there's just so many different systems working together that make up someone's utility bill, electricity, water, and other things. But they are systems that work together. So, I got into energy auditing because, if you call your utility company, a lot of times they'll have a program where they'll do like an energy audit. You can call them, they'll do like a free energy audit, come to the house, look at your installation. It's super shallow though, I've noticed, and just not very thorough, and doesn't really give people the meaning that they need. It doesn't paint a picture of meaning that people need to make informed decisions. It just kind of like checks off boxes. So what I do is I go the extra. I just go further into the equation to give people either as close as possible or an exact um, meaning of what each energy upgrade would result in their kilowatt hour savings. And so depending on, I know the government, there's tax credits and then there's utility rebates, depending on where you live, et cetera, that all go into the equation, where particular upgrades are going to be very, very attractive, especially if you have an inefficient home, compared to, let's say, producing power from solar first. So a lot of homes, that homeowners are just choosing to put a giant solar system on their house because they're like, yeah, I'm going solar. But they only need, if they were to fix the glaring issues in their home, they would only need half the system size.
So what kind of like how do you fix those issues within the home?
Uh, so everything that makes up the utility bill. Okay, so there's base loads and there's seasonal. That's the easiest way to look at it. Every home uh, can categorize their utility bill in those two areas. Base loads are just going to be your electrical outlets, TVs, appliances, refrigerator, etc., lighting, and then seasonal is going to be pretty much HVAC related. So your heating and cooling costs are 50 to 70%. So, and this is a broad stroke, right? But 50 to 70% of a building's costs on electricity can be attributed to heating and cooling. So like 60% roughly. And then the other 40% is base load. So I can break down someone's utility bill from a kilowatt hour standpoint and pretty much determine after my energy audit how much each appliance is using and where the inefficiencies are, and then do a financial model afterwards to account for utility rebates, federal incentives, the total cost of upgrading a said energy asset, and then basically show them exactly what their cash flow would be. And then I provide financing too if people need it. So there's a cash flow comparison of like, if you do nothing, you're going to keep paying your wasteful utility bill forever. And then if you upgrade this asset, it's going to be X amount and zero up front or whatever the situation may be. But
Are they upgrading the appliances too, or are you upgrading the actual electrical system that's the outlet?
No, so anything that's using electricity. So the typical energy assets, what I call them like energy assets, because the higher performing an appliance is, the more valuable hypothetically it would be, and the lower the cost to operate a home, the higher the value of the home would be theoretically, right? But lighting is one. So like, I mean, everyone talks about LEDs are so much more efficient than incandescents or regular light bulbs, but no one knows a lot of people don't know what it means. Like I was talking to my sister, I did an energy audit for her like a month ago, and she was like, yeah, well, I just don't like how the LEDs look, as much. And then I was like, well, that's fine. I mean, you can change the look. It's like, there's different numbers, Kelvin and geeky stuff you can get into with LEDs, but um, they're like 8 to 10 times more efficient, every single light bulb, right? So I can
Eight to
geek
ten
out on it.
times is a lot.
8 to 10 times more efficient than a typical light bulb, yeah. And depending on how much you use that zone of the house,
Hmm.
and depending on how much your rate per kilowatt hour is, I do a whole financial model for every single zone. Like my dad, he has a 6,000 square foot house in North Carolina. He had 92 light bulbs, 92 light bulbs, and they were all like 80-watt light bulbs. And we switched them to 8-watt light bulbs.
Hmm.
So depending on how often he uses those, I estimated like 3 hours a day, but it ended up being like $100 a month. He was spending like $800 a month between gas and electric on his
Wow.
utility. So just lighting. So I literally just put the lighting part of the conversation there. So it's like $100. So that's just like one, little example. But yeah, I try to be very specific on each one and then help create a plan for
Do you
people.
do that around appliances as well? Like fridge and anything
Yeah,
or
anything. I mean, the conversation will vary depending on the appliance, but and then
well, so
after that,
once you reduce all that, that's when you look at like, okay, that like how implementing solar will, you're generating this power, so then but you don't have to generate as much power to power that because you're using less energy from the beginning, which
yeah,
makes
30 to 50%.
sense. 30
30
to
to 50% savings is what I think a typical home could see if they were to go a little bit more granular with their energy efficiency.
that what's the average I guess it depends on how big the home is, like how much savings around what people make.
Yeah, it's going to depend on a lot of things: the size of the home, how old it is, the quality of the insulation in the home, the age of the HVAC, the price per kilowatt hour of electricity.
Do
I
you do
understand
anything with water?
what's that?
Do you do anything with water?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Not as much, but um, I can look at someone's water bill, and yeah, there's like low flow aerators, and there's not as much like creativity in that conversation, but they're out there. Mhm.
Yeah. I really want to, like I mentioned before, I really want to see the product come to market of this guy in Venice that makes his own AC and heating from his water. But I feel like it's not in the market yet, but maybe we can add that to what you're doing and then that'll really transform the world. But
Yeah.
yeah, because it's the only place I've ever seen that or heard of it, where
Okay.
the upcycling of his water from his sink and his shower is actually first draining into his garden where he has 135 species on this tiny lot in Venice, and then also making his AC and heating. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, so I think there is a whole other future of, possibility that we can tap into that isn't quite yet at the market and is kind of being suppressed because as we were talking about, these systems want to take all the money and, kind of control our energy usage and our lives. So,
Pretty
yeah.
much. Pretty much. I try to stay on the positive side of the coin, but there's definitely rabbit holes to go into, and just focus on what we can control. And
Exactly. And that's why it's just creating better options, like within the system. We're still operating in a lot of the systems at B, but we can do it better, right? We can save money, we can make it more efficient, and we can create better lives for everyone by doing this. So
yeah, yeah, I just like in our short-term rentals structures, I want, and we'll have like a spa and apothecary and all the healing center style things, but the technologies, the different therapies, and red light therapy, etc. It's like all the different little tricks and hacks and stuff we'll have as well. And so that's all under development, but that's what Avalon Acres will ultimately be.
what are you calling in for that? Like, are you looking for partners, investors, people to, what is the phase of people coming to check it out, to work there? What phase are you in right now?
Um, Building structures. Anyone local that wants to learn how to build, For example, like Earthship Biotecture, right? They have a program for, I mean, you have to pay like 2 or 3 grand or something to go basically learn how to build an Earthship. Um, I don't know how long it takes or how many kind of courses or lessons they do within that, but for us, if someone's a skilled builder and wants to help us build now, they can contact me, and we're literally actively building all sorts of stuff. Um, so that's kind of in the meantime, or volunteers. Um, so there's that, and then from a funding standpoint, I have commercial real estate experience, so I do like some multifamily deals with apartments, and so I'm familiar with what's called syndications, where we get investors as limited partners if they want to just invest in the entire vision and then get cash flow returns. Once we're cash flowing, they'll get a percentage of those returns, and so we have that structure mostly built out. So if someone's potentially interested in investing, obviously, I don't expect someone to just like hear a call like this, or call me on the phone, or my business partner Bob, and like the vision, or appreciate what we're doing, and invest money. Like, we'd want to build somewhat of obviously a relationship first, have people come visit, stay, kind of see the land, experience it, and go from there. So yeah, we're open to a lot of things.
And you have
We're kind of bootstrapping it for now, but we have plans, and we know how to execute. So
and you have cabins for people to stay on right now, or
um, well, we have a teepee and a yurt.
okay.
Uh, we so the reason why we chose cabins in general is because people will ask about homesteading, and they're like, well, I want some land. Okay, well, or they're like, what should I build? And it's like, well, what do you have? you know we're we're in the forest.
Mhm.
We have cedar and oak and some
Nice.
pine. We have a
So you can
sawmill.
build from the land.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
so
that's such a
just build
thing
with
to
what
do.
you have.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that you're kinda, like, shifting the awareness in the solar industry. Are you building out your team? Are you calling are you gonna do you have the ability to bring on more solar salespeople, or, what does the space look like that for the business for
Hmm.
performance?
So the short answer is yes, but not like right now. So I see the solar industry basically fault like coming to a massive. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to call it, but it's gonna shift um, quite a bit from where it is now. So I think it's gonna mostly fall down and then rebuild itself. And so when that happens, my company, Elite Home Performance, I want to be positioned in a way where the people who are doing things the right way um, just naturally kind of come on board, right? So what part of what I mean by that is I got BPI certified. It's called the Building Performance Institute, but where that regulation requires at least some level of expertise and certification. Like right now, anyone can go into solar and start selling like they don't know anything, literally, and start telling people whatever they want to say to make a commission. And okay, but most like mortgages and real estate, I mean, most industries are somewhat regulated. So um, I'll onboard 2 to 3, solar people that want to do things this way, but it's a different model. And I'm also working on a proposal software. So there's some things behind the scenes, specifically for energy efficiency, but you know, I should have that done within, I would think, like the next month. But yeah, I'm bringing people on board. I know I will be bringing people on board. It's not something I'm focused on immediately, though.
Have you had a larger team with, like,
Have I
within the
managed people?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, right, well, right now, or like, has Elite Home Performance had a lot of people working in the company?
No, no. I mean, I just started Elite Home Performance a couple of months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
basically brand new.
But you were working on this for a while. Like, I guess you're
Well,
doing
I've
solar
been in the solar industry. So
on
prior to
driving.
me having this Elite Home Performance, I had Ori Energy. So if you look up orisolarpower.com, they're in Florida. And my best friend Alex Richards owns that company. We were business partners, so he's buying me out, and it's a solar dealer. So you know, um, that's where I mean, and I worked for a couple of different companies before that, but I was in the kind of traditional solar world before. So
Mhm.
now I'm more a whole home. You can call it like whole home energy upgrades is what I do.
Holistic energy,
Whole home
holistic
energy.
home energy upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just kind of looking at the whole equation, seeing what's
Yeah.
messed up, fixing that, and then doing whatever the homeowner wants.
Mhm. Nice. Um, how did you get into, into entrepreneurship and kinda like paving your own way?
Um, yeah, it's all been a function of being extremely confused and annoyed growing up because I just was I was so confused growing. I didn't. It was weird because I mean, me and my mom are so close, and I love her dearly. But her worldview is just a total opposite of my dad. So I spent half my time at my mom's and half the time at my dad's, and it was just the weirdest thing. Because she's Republican, he's Democrat, right? So like every single worldview difference that you could imagine are so I had to try to make sense of all of that. Um, and that was it just kind of led me down a path of being incredibly curious about what's true, like what does that mean, um, and on top of that challenge, just seeing all of the things in the world that I thought were all messed up. um, at the end of the
Like
day, an entrepreneur is a problem solver, and so I just kind of I remember telling myself as a kid that I would never start a business
why?
because it's too much work.
Okay. I know, I mean, entrepreneur life is like, you're always on. It's
It's
not.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's so much
It's
work.
are your business. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just remember like
How old were you?
middle school maybe.
Okay. I feel like
Yeah.
I always wanted to start a business. Like, I remember selling, like, lemonade and my mom's peppers from the garden. Like, she had green peppers in the garden. I would just sell them on the like, outside of our
Mhm.
house, and I feel like I always wanted to do that kind of thing, but,
So
um
the peppers, you you were inspired by the peppers.
the peppers and just making I think it wasn't lemonade, I think it was, like, shitty Minute Maid, like, juices, like, fruit punch, like, you know? It didn't last that long, but, I think those are the roots, the beginning.
Totally.
Um, yeah, but so you started with this split perspective of the world, and, like, how did you stepped into real estate, or, like, what was your timeline? Did you go to college, or, like, what
Oh
was
yeah,
your
college.
timeline?
So I have a degree in aeronautical science. It's a Embry-Riddle aeronautical. It's a private school in Florida. But I've always been like a big math person. I like math a lot. I think it's really interesting. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I was a regular high school kid, skateboarder kid, and um, worked at the post office in college. I paid my way through school, and I wanted to be like an engineer. Um, I thought, um, you know, but of course that. But okay, so I got into door to door sales. Is what happened. I got into door to door sales
What were you
when I was
selling?
21. Hmm?
What were you
Oh,
selling?
home security. So I did Vivint, the orange signs, the Utah company. They do
Mm,
home automation. They're still doing the same program, knocking doors, summer sales. So I did summer sales for 5 years, and
it's a lot of good
uh,
sales training.
got initiated, yeah, into the Mormons, literally.
What were your biggest takeaways, or like how did you transition out of that? Were you just like, this is enough, I've done enough, or did you see the value of doing sales but in a different way? Like, what was your transition after that?
Um, yeah, I got a ton of value from that experience. Learning. I mean, I've knocked probably tens of thousands or maybe 100,000 doors in my career. I mean, what I learned a lot. Made good money. For a 20 between years 21 and 26 years old. I was able to learn a lot about influence and sales and business and make some investments and make some mistakes. Um,
What were your biggest mistakes?
oh, just from an investment standpoint, investing is all about risk to reward. That's like the whole thing with investing, right? So I think you know so I basically made a really high risk investment and lost a lot of money.
In
But
stocks,
I
or
wasn't like ready. Like
what were
if
you
I
investing?
had like a ton of passive income or cash flow from different properties, whatever, and could swallow a high risk and losing a large amount of money, then that's fine. But I kind of was emotional about like just getting into a cool industry or whatever, and I made a mistake, so I learned from that.
And
And so now
how
I'm
did
very
you
calculated.
feel after that? Like, what did it feel like losing that money, and how did you feel, like how did you get over it, or like did it take you a while to be like, wow?
Um, well, going into it, I think that when I say mistake, what I mean by that is I wasn't I was like assuming that I was going to make the same amount of income with less and less effort over time. It was like the
Mhm.
naive, early 20s where it's like, oh, I just made a ton of money. I can do that again and again and again and again, and it's never going to change, like no matter what. And can I? Sure, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And so knowing that I lost that money, it was kind of like I almost didn't really feel anything about it. It didn't
You're
I
like,
didn't feel like
it's
a
okay, I'll
loss,
make more money, or what?
huh?
It's like, were you just thinking you'll make more money, or what?
Kinda. I mean, but by the time I pretty much knew I'd lost the money, I had already kind of felt like it was a mistake and I was probably going to lose it.
Hmm.
So I think one of the lost arts of being a human being is accountability and taking responsibility for things. And so people just love to blame other people for their problems. And one thing, if it, anyone that knows me, I think I could stand by that. I don't blame anyone for my problems. I'll say that like just straight up. I don't blame people. I don't complain. You know what I'm saying? Like no, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm curious to know, because like I'm just wondering, in terms of like become like for people stepping into like their own path, their own way into entrepreneurship, like just the trials and errors, and like how you move through that, and like how you pivot, or how you move through that, like emotionally and financially, and like just okay, when it's not working, you shift, or like you realize it was a mistake, so you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, or or
mhm.
step and like not get stuck in that, but like how do you move forward in the face of challenges, and like if
Yeah.
there feels like you're stuck or there's a block, what do you do in your life to move that forward, or to stay moving forward?
Yeah. It's good questions. I I feel like forgiveness, being quick to forgive yourself for mistakes and normalizing the fact that that's always going to happen. Like you can't avoid making mistakes, especially when you're young. Especially when you're young, right? Like you're an idiot. Like you're supposed to be stupid when you're young. Little kids don't know anything. They don't know anything. That's the whole thing. You're a little kid, and then
Being
the parents have
curious,
to guide you. And then and of course there's some natural like genius that will come out, but like as far as living in the world, we need guidance, right? And so being quick to forgive ourselves when we make a mistake, and then seeking out mentors, seeking out people that know what they're doing, that have the competency and have the honesty to show it that and sometimes we have to vie for position, and like there's certain mentors where you kind of have to show them that you're serious, but you have to become serious to yourself first. You have to prove to yourself that you're serious about your mission, and determine why it's so important. People talk about their why all the time, like it's like a big topic in general, like what's your why, because it's going to carry you through the storm, which is true. But and I don't know, some people might not like Jordan Peterson here. I like Jordan Peterson. It's fine either way. But you know, you'll see him like tear up sometimes in some of his shares. And I think, and he does kind of like, I almost like tease him for it because he does it so much. But if your why doesn't make you cry, then it's not good enough. So that's my foundation, right? And
what is your why?
I could talk for a while, but I try to not.
What is your why?
I wrote, I'd like to solve as many of the problems in the world that I can possibly solve while I'm here. And I know that sounds like a big thing, but how do you eat an elephant, right? You break it up, like bite, right? So I'm like, what are the small steps? What are the big problems? Like I talked about like the greed function being such a that it's like interwoven into all of our systems right now. So like capitalism, and it's not just capitalism, socialism, politics, everything, right? And so, you know, I don't know. I know that I don't know everything, and no one knows all the answers. But I think the reason why we're on this call is that we know at least there's some level of going back to the basics that can serve humanity on some level, right? Getting back to the land, no matter how open you are spiritually, or no matter what, you know, political side you resonate with most. The divorce rates are extremely high, suicide rates, depression, you know, there's a lot of problems, and so my why is just devoted to bringing people back to the basics, and understanding how to own their lives, right? And coming back to family and community, and starting there, like our basic needs, food, water, and power, those are being controlled and taken away as much as possible from us. So like having more autonomy and ownership over those things, I think starting there is a totally reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, creating the sovereignty and creating the education so people can start learning about it, so that we can step, you know, into more sovereign systems, into, you know, and I think all these are so important. And, you know, when you can own your own energy, or even like step into that realm, and I think it opens up all these other doors of, you know, how you can create more freedom in your life. And, you know, once you shift one area, then it's like a whole rabbit hole, and then you like see everything else, right? It's like everyone, like, we don't know how we all get here to like, oh, we know that we want to create a better world together, you know, like everyone has their own story of like, oh, an epiphany, or you know, an abyss, or, you know, whatever it may be, a rock bottom moment. But we arrive at this point, and this turning point in our narrative, and in our collective consciousness, where we realize that we are one, and we realize that we want to make a world that works for all. And so I think that like
Totally.
every piece is so important and integral to the other and to the whole. Because then once we can think about, conserving our energy or shifting our systems and making our own power, then, that can open up other doors, you know?
Mhm. Totally. I think it's
Um,
also really important to like not skip steps. Like, I see so many, entrepreneurs or like problem solvers or businesses and community-minded people, um, people that want to move and shake things, and those are all beautiful. Um, but I don't hear it spoken about a lot. Um, I'm not going to say I don't ever hear it spoken about, but like the self-healing side of things, like addressing like the shadows, the obviously the traumas, all that stuff. It's talked about in like its own world, like the healing space, but not in the context of community building and business and entrepreneurship. Like they go hand in hand, right? So I've been obsessed about personal development forever. Like I mean I because it was part of my way of making sense of the world. Because my I was so confused growing up that I had to just seek some things that made sense. And then eventually it just kind of came back to me. Like the thing, my issues, what challenges that I had, I was incredibly timid and um, I just wasn't confident as a kid. I thought I was stupid, actually. I thought I was really dumb, basically. I wasn't good at communicating. I wasn't good at um, thinking of what I wanted to say. I would get stuck a lot. And so I thought that meant I was stupid. But anyway, so it was just a constant loop of addressing the actual problem in oneself, but then it mutes and transforms and grows into doing that all over the place and meeting people that do the same thing and have fun, you know.
how did you shift that? How did you become aware of that? And what did you do in your life to start becoming less timid and start recognizing who you are and your empowerment?
um well, like my mom always said she was proud of me, and she always thought she always gave me so much encouragement and love, and attention and everything a mother should do, like amazing. But I just like was like, it's like moms are supposed to do that. It doesn't count. It's like literally doesn't even count. And then I, got older. I was like, oh wait, it does count.
A lot of
Um,
it, yeah.
yeah, no, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Um,
My mom
but
just texted me this morning. She's like, "You're a world changer." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, mom."
yeah, moms are the best. Um, but yeah, it was just a really slow, deliberate process. There's, no silver bullet. I mean,
But you became aware of it.
how did I become aware of?
No, but I mean, like that was the first, like you became aware of it, and then you started to shift or take action.
Yeah. Um,
I think that's the first thing is like becoming aware.
well,
I feel
it's almost like when I talk about facing problems head on, like when I got the opportunity to go into door to door sales, my mom was like I think the only one who basically encouraged me to do it. Like my dad was like, "Do you have a plan B, or what's your plan B?" And I was like, "I don't know," But it was like that was the thing that I needed most, was to
mm,
just go get my face kicked in by random people all day and want to
getting
kill
getting over
myself.
the fear, getting over the fear of rejection, right? I think the more that we can do that, then we liberate ourselves because then it feels normal and we don't, then we can step
Mhm,
into the better
mhm.
space.
Yeah, I mean, I've come to expect the world to give me nothing and not care about me at all,
Hmm.
like at all, like, and that's perfectly fine because I understand how it operates. I understand how people operate. Like no one cares, and until you build the thing and create the value and that's fine. It's coming to terms with what the reality of a situation is truly, and
I was
being
on.
at peace with that,
I was on a
right?
call just a couple of weeks ago, and the speaker was, sharing how he's always turning into service. And I really resonated with that. It's like when I found myself in suffering or in lack or something, it was always when I first had to like give love to myself, but also like shifting into the like, oh, what value can I provide, and like shifting into the service and like actually like making that offer to that client or whatever it may be. It was like I had to shift and turn it the other way versus like you said, no one cares. It's like I have to be the one to love myself first if I'm in suffering,
Totally.
you know,
Totally.
and then give it back and be like, hey, I can offer you this, you know, and then you find that client, you find that next opportunity, whatever it may be. But it's like we have to be the ones to choose to do that, even when it's fucking painful, because it's gonna be fucking painful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the moment when we have to love ourselves more and then make that shift.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, think about all of the people that make decisions based on other people's opinions forever and never change like their attachments and like yeah, it's wild how so many people just don't they don't learn how to treat themselves so that they look for validation everywhere all the time, like even like that's what I see in business. It's like people are just wanting to flex. They really are just wanting to flex, get Lambos, get the women, get the yachts, get the whatever, get this, prove that. And I'm just like, dude, none of that. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, me and my business partner, Bob, joke all the time about like the boats and hose thing. Boats and hose. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's like, I mean, I don't, it sounds fun. Don't get me wrong. It sounds fun. And I can have a ton of fun. I love that. But that's not what I'm here for. Like, I'm not like fun is not like what I'm optimizing for. It's not like the thing. Like if I create the thing that's meaningful and that matters and creates positive change in the world, that'll be really fun. Right?
Yeah,
Once all
I
that's
think all of
rolling.
it's fun too.
But like right now, I don't think about having fun.
Have
I
you
zero. I don't. I mean, I have fun all the time because I'm just a goofball and like I'll talk to people. It's fun. It's great. But I just don't think that way. So
It's a balance. It's a balance.
yeah, and I'm kind of a psycho. I don't expect
You know,
people to be.
I feel that too, though, because it's like I'm not going to that festival to party. Like I'm going to network and heal myself. Like that's my mindset when I'm like going to a festival, or like even I might. I don't want to say it, but I might go to Burning Man. I don't know yet.
Right.
But it's like I'm not going to go like party my face off. You know, I'm
Right.
going to, you know, I'm going to make important connections and you
Yeah,
know,
and everyone's got to find their
the
lane within
balance.
that. You
Yeah.
know, I don't expect people to be like me or whatever. Like I said, I'm a little
No,
bit of a psycho
I
person.
honestly find myself feel more purposeful when I'm in doing the work, like doing the, you know, having these
Mhm,
types of conversations, and this is fun, and like, and also doing the work that I need to do to, you know,
mhm.
to create this purpose. So
Yeah,
it's once you step into that purpose and you find that meaning that it, you know, it is fulfilling for
yeah,
sure. And I
yeah.
really resonate with like the door-to-door sales and the, you know, being shy, because I was like I wouldn't even do it. Like I would like ditch school to like not do a presentation, you know. Speak in front of class, like, you know. And I had this such bad programming from my friend that I always spent time with, because she was like, oh, it's so scary, blah, blah. And like I don't think I was like that when I was like 3, but by the time I was like 12, 15, whatever, I was completely shy and could not speak for the life of me and do a presentation.
Mhm.
And it, you know, it was horrible, and I would never want to be in that space again. Like I feel so grateful that I've been speaking on stage this year at a
Mm,
few at Envision Festival and
amazing.
Bottle, and completely transformed that. Like I'm not 100% where like I'm, you know, TED Talk speaker yet, but I would love to get there.
Yeah.
And you know, and then also the door-to-door sales, I think that was a good training. I only did it for a few days in the winter, and but I've done so much like customer service. Like I started working in a coffee shop when I was 14, so I had to learn how to, and they always were like upsell, upsell, upsell. So it's like, you know, that training, and
Yeah,
to like
coming back to the
absorb
scones.
the rejection of the upsell too, you know, that was another whole thing. But like learning the door sales and like I think letting go of I still want to do more of that and learn how to close better and like let go of rejection more. But I think those skills are so good to learn when you're in those types of mundane, monotonous jobs that are kind of shitty at the time, but they give you actual real life skills to bring to the future.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Are
just
you
comes back to addressing weaknesses,
mhm. And
addressing
working
weaknesses.
on them? Do you
Yeah.
like sales? Would you say that you're a good closer?
I mean, I was known as a good closer. Yeah. In certain, that's kind of that question or the answer to that question has evolved over time. Like, I feel like the way I learned how to sell was very manipulative. and then
Mm,
I had basically had to become aware of what exactly I was being taught to say that was manipulative, and then like kind of change the things that I thought about how I sold, and
mm.
then get to a point where I was like, I'm actually selling. Honestly, I'm selling less. I'm selling less, and that's the hard part, right? Is like I kind of got to a point where I became so obsessed with my own integrity of like how I see myself that I'm not willing to take advantage of a situation. If I wanted to go make $500,000 or $1 million in solar, like there's guys doing that, and I'm not saying all the guys doing that are lying. I think there's certain markets and stuff. I'm not going to create a blanket statement, but what I do know is that there's a lot of people just going crazy with lies in solar. It's it's not good. So like
Well, that's how
I'm
you
just kind
stand
of a
out.
psycho about it.
Yeah, but that's how you stand out from the crowd, and like I think that people will see over time, and I think that by building that honesty, you can provide a platform for people, as you bring on more people to sell
Hmm.
and more people to provide this value, then it's a game changer because we need to transform the way that we do sales. Like you just said, integrating the shadow, integrating the healing within business. It's like let's be honest with what we're selling
Hmm.
and sell people things that they need. Sales isn't a bad thing. Sales is service if you do it right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's when you talk about like things that people need, you know, I guess that's all I've really been focused on the last while. Cause like this year, like I started Avalon Acres this year and Elite Home Performance this year. So it's just been crazy. But the whole focus is on like just doing away with the fluff and what is the foundational things that people really need, you know? And when you talk about closing, it's like, what's the most important thing in a sales conversation? It's like when there's rapport, the more confident one is going to influence the less confident one. That's how it works. So conviction is the asset. Conviction is the main thing. So I feel like I've been able to cultivate my conviction to a point where it's solid because you know it's solid. It's really solid. Like I'm convicted in what I'm doing. And so I wish that for everyone. I wish that for everyone. Um, and it doesn't, I'm not a trillionaire. I'm not like super rich or whatever. I'm not flexing any sort of whatever, but I just know the direction. I know it's a good direction. I can see long term what it has the possibility of actually creating now. And so that's what I live every day thinking about. And because I know it's possible. And if it's possible, it's worth my time, you know? And so I don't know. That's kind of how I roll. I really do like, and it sounds weird or I don't know what it sounds like, but I really do just want to help. That's all I want to do is just help because things are so screwed up. People are miserable. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're sad. They're like being cheated on and broken up with, and They don't know themselves. They have a crappy relationship with their parents. The capitalism is like taking all their money and like not delivering the same value that is being promised to them. There's poison in the food. Electricity's too expensive. People don't know anything. Like,
It's a
it's
lot.
like
Because then you
it's a lot.
like look at the stack of things that like
Like
we're dealing with as humans. Like it's so crazy. It's like how are
it's
we
insane.
even alive right now?
It's a miracle.
I
It's a
know.
miracle that we're
That
even
our
talking.
human spirit stays on.
I don't even know where you are. You're probably in California, or you told me
Nevada,
once, but then you travel Oregon, or I don't know. Where are you
no,
again?
Nevada City, California.
Yes.
Yuba River,
Well,
the Sacramento River watershed. Yeah.
but like my point in that is just we can talk from anywhere. Like I'm talking to you through magic, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's the
crazy.
magic of the internet. We have the ability to shift just with these things. We don't need more than this to actually share our message and share solutions, share with the world what we're passionate about, our convictions, our purpose. And we can shift just by having this conversation. We're shifting one person's life. We're shifting our lives by having this conversation. So two, plus whoever else sees this, even if just one person, I think that's even more than zero than it would if we
Right.
didn't have this conversation. But the meaning is the point is that we have so much opportunity now in 2024 with the power of the internet to co-market, to share, to amplify each other's messages and missions, and to weave and to make more of a difference and to help more people. And I think like at the end of the day, all of our spirits want to help and like each of us generally wants to help each
Yeah,
other. And so just like coming back to that simple notion, it's like we
totally.
all we all want to help each other. um is there, so you're starting to like create more of a presence online with both of your companies, so where can people find you? What is your website and your handle?
Um, well, I have a Elite Home Performance Facebook and Instagram page. I'm more active on my YouTube channel. I'm doing a 5 to 10 minute, probably around 5 minute video every week. So I just filmed my second one yesterday, and so yeah, people can find me on those socials. I'm also um, branching out into TikTok and like Twitter X, I guess, just because why not? And width and then depth with the socials. Um, and then yeah, Avalon Acres as well. I haven't really posted a bunch with Avalon Acres. We do have one kind of trailer for Avalon for investors that is on our Instagram. So if you look up Avalon Acres RLC, that's Regenerative Living Center. It's on Instagram. And my name's Davison Kirchmyer. So I also am a human that has a Facebook page.
Awesome. If you can just share a little bit, about from your heart, what if you had any message to share with the world to inspire the world today, what would it be?
um, Focus on your own healing and your own relationship to yourself, and everything will come as a result of that. Um, Focus on having good relationships with other people. Focus on treating yourself kindly. Um, Commit to going to the depths. Uh, I've done probably just an obscene amount of personal development and men's work and ayahuasca and all that stuff, and I'm really grateful for it. It was really hard sometimes, but um, just go. We're we're as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time if we're just going to kind of float around. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're just going to float around and, you know, like I'm not like I'm a goofball. Okay, I'm a goofball, right? But so like I was at Solar Punk. You're familiar with Solar
Yeah,
Punk?
going. I'm actually have a meeting with the Angel in 15 minutes.
Okay, amazing. So,
I'll be there.
um, so my encouragement to everyone is just to be realistic with themselves, right? Love themselves, all that stuff, and develop those good relationships. But like just for example, I was at Solar Punk last year, and it was like totally random. I was just hanging out with some friends, and we ran across these two girls, and um, I don't know. I don't think it was me. It was, I think, a friend of mine. We ran into these two girls and asked her like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, what are your goals from uh, what do you want to get out of the event? And she was like, well, I just want to tap into my divine alignment. And as I'm probably going to sound like an asshole, but I, I see myself as like a grounding rod, right? Because there's like really far extreme left, there's really far extreme right, and I'm trying to bring people back to reality, like in the middle, right? And I'm not saying like I've done a bunch of ayahuasca, okay, I've done all sorts of stuff, but I really just want to inspire people to think about what they're doing and get real with themselves more than anything, because all this love and light stuff, it's beautiful and we need it, but it has to be grounded in reality. And that's what I would want to impart more than anything, really. Does that, I hope it's not too harsh.
No, I mean you didn't
Okay.
even. I thought you were gonna make a comment on the divine alignment. I think finding the divine alignment of the grounding. It's like how can you bring that divine alignment into the net, like into what you're actually doing. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I
You know.
like, and all the stars, like we need the cosmic and we need the
Mhm.
ground. We need the
Yeah.
earth, we need the cosmos. We need both. Right?
Yeah.
So just sometimes when I'm seeing so many people be like way up there, I'm
Oh,
like,
thank you. No.
that's cool. But I'm like reeling everyone, come on
Yeah.
guys, we got to come back down here,
Yeah.
kind of orient, and then go to outer space a little bit. That's cool too, but just come back for a while.
Yeah.
It's fine. You don't have to stay on earth, just come
Yeah.
back a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So,
I think the two things you just hit, really well is that, coming into divine alignment and grounding that. I noticed yesterday when I've been reaching out for partnerships with Geoship, and I was going through my old database, and I started making this database 7 years ago. And it was like a turning point for me because I was like, I just started making this database of all these conscious organizations, and this epiphany happened in my mind because I never did that before 7 years ago, right? And I looked at it last night, and the second one was Geoship. I didn't even know that. Like on the top of my list, and now I'm working with them 7 years. Like I didn't even remember. I didn't even know that I put them on that list. And it's
wow.
like, wow, I feel like that's divine alignment that now I'm working with them.
Yeah.
I'm
No, I
like, wow,
mean, synchronicities are all over the place,
yeah.
you
And
know.
then to the commitment fact, I just wanted to mention today is actually 365 days of me not drinking. So I'm congratulating myself for my own commitment.
Seriously, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think, everything is within, balance and reason. Like I don't think drinking is bad, but I think there's times when we need to make decisions in our life and commit, And so I made a commitment last year to do a month and then 3 months and then, and then I was like, I'm gonna go for the year. So I'm really great. I think that a lot has shifted in my life, and I feel really grateful that I made that decision.
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing. I hear of all people all the time. Well, not all the time, but when, when people make that decision, I just notice their feedback of like clarity, um,
mhm.
and only like you're the only one that can save you. Like no one's coming to save it. Like,
Yeah,
and, okay, there's the whole other no one's coming to save us thing,
yeah,
but only you really know what needs to be done.
Yeah. Tuning in, like
Tuning.
listening, actually listening, like what is your soul saying, and what
Yeah.
is your heart saying, and actually listening and actually taking action. It's like
Mhm.
I probably
And
knew a long time
choose that
before
every
that.
time. Like,
Yeah.
so my thought is like, how amazing of a life in a world could we build if every single time that challenge came up, we said yes, and
Hmm.
we didn't dilly dally, we didn't look the other way, we didn't
Hmm.
avoid every single time. How amazing could we become?
Yeah. Letting go of that resistance, I think, feeling the resistance and be like, no, I'm saying it's yes to the commitment or whatever it may be, but also not like, also I feel like the forgiveness part of ourselves is like, if I'm not going to make the right decision, then not holding ourselves like, guilty, or like tuning in with the vibration, because like in every action we have the choice to like put good energy into whatever action we're doing, even if it's not the highest, and so not putting guilt into it is so important too, I find, and like reteaching myself that it's like letting go. It's like if I'm going to make a mistake or whatever it may be, because I think that I don't think we can choose that every time. It would be amazing, and we can probably start to do that more and more and more and more, and have that ripple out, because I find that if I begin to take actions and I keep doing it, it's like, oh, I just completed 12 days of hot yoga, so it's like I know that once I get into a rhythm, it's like it becomes habitual. You can make positive habitual actions that become automatic, that are great in life, but also not to hold ourselves, if
Yeah, it's a fine balance between
balance.
challenge and support with
Hmm.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like if you watch David Goggins, he's kind of a psycho. I don't know if you have seen David Goggins, but
Mm-mm.
he's an ex-military Navy SEAL. I think he was Army Ranger, Navy SEAL, and every other possible like elite, military type dude, whatever. He's like a super warrior type guy, and he's always like, "What the f are you doing? Get the f up!" and blah blah blah. And he's crazy. He's insane. Like he ran like 18,000 marathons and with a broken foot and stuff. So so there's like that extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the forgiveness and support and stuff. So like finding that, tuning into what is needed for you specifically, but you're the only one who knows.
Yeah.
Like if you're being too lax on yourself, push yourself.
Yeah.
And,
Because we
and
create that pain. It's like we create the pain of being committed, and like the consistent action of going to the gym every day, or doing whatever, running or whatever it may be. Or we choose our own suffering, we choose our own pain. It's like, am I going to have the pain of like being disciplined, or am I going to pain of like being of the other pain, of like of being in lack, or of suffering, or whatever it may be, right? So it's like we get to choose our
yeah,
reality. It's like we do get to, but then it's like I'll choose that pain of going to the gym, right? Because that feels good when your muscles are sore the next day, and then all the
yeah.
other benefits are way more valuable than choosing that discipline of like that 30 seconds of what, or like the 5-second rule that Mel Robbins talks about. It's like make a decision within 5 seconds, because you can choose to stay in bed, or you can choose, no, I'm going to get up and go to
Oh,
work.
she's the one who does the countdown when you're
Yeah.
sleeping, or your sleep
Or
countdown.
not,
Yeah,
well, not when you're sleeping, but just like when you're, just to make it, it's like I think it's the 5 second, is it the 5-second rule or 10-second? I forget, but it's like making a decision instead of just
I think
overthinking.
I thought it was 5, but
I think
yeah,
5, yeah. I think that's a good amount. I saw myself doing it last week too, because I was like, I'm gonna be late, and I just like, like what, that split second, nope, get up, drive to the studio, go to the hot yoga
it's
class.
like just go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's good. I mean, it's good to have both. I mean, we don't need the military all the time, but having some consistency is good for sure. I'm
yeah,
gonna end this recording. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna
yeah.
send me all your links, so that I can put them in the description.
Okay,
And then, yeah, people can find you online and stay tuned in to the future and find you, and go visit Avalon Acres and outside of Bastrop in Austin.
totally.
Yeah.
Will do. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate your invitation and just what you bring, and your energy and positivity, and just wanted to, you know, amplify the whole equation here. It's good. Thank you.
Thanks.